Los Angeles is at a pivotal moment right now. As Mayor Garcetti gets ready to leave his seat and prepare for his own ambassadorship for the United States government, there are now a bunch of new people, well, some not so new, that are vying for his seat. So I think this is a great opportunity to use this moment where we're having a new set of leadership to talk about some things that South LA could really use. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the South LA Recap. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to learn more about South LA on the regular. Today, this isn't a regular episode, so I'm kind of lost.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So today I'm with my wife, who is here just to support me because I have an odd time actually talking to the camera without kind of presenting fact. But today we're actually going to talk about a couple of things that I've seen in my research and I've seen in videos that I think are very important as we discuss new leadership. Right now, we have a couple of candidates who are running for that seat, that mayor seat in the city of Los Angeles. That includes Congresswoman Karen Bass, billionaire developer Rick Caruso, city council members Kevin DeLeon and Joe Busciano, and city attorney Mike Feuer.
Well, I heard that Caruso was the man who built the Grove and
The Americana. Yeah.
It looks like the Grove in Glendale. Is that true?
No, that's right. Yeah, he actually built two of the city's largest outdoor malls, the only real outdoor malls I think you can really talk about when you're talking about LA. So I have three things I want to talk about today. The first is fair distribution of supportive housing. The second is resurfacing alley gates and illegal dumping in South LA and the city abroad. And then the third is investing more businesses into South LA. So let's jump into it. So before we get into these three things that I'd like to address for South LA, I think we need to talk about the actual power of the mayor.
So what does the mayor do anyway?
Well, good that you asked. The city of Los Angeles actually has a really nice description of the mayor's duties on the official city website. And just to summarize that, the mayor is practically pretty powerless when it comes to creating laws. They're known as being the diplomat for the city, kind of in some capacity, just like how the president is to Congress. So really, we should be holding the council, the city council, at stake for what's going on when it comes to things that are laws, but the mayor actually signs laws into action.
Okay, so basically, it doesn't really matter who is in charge because they're not actually making the laws. It's the city council members, it's our police force that are enforcing the laws, and the mayor is really just the face of the city.
It's the face of the city, but then at the same time, the mayor can encourage the council to tackle issues as a group. So that's why this is very important, because this person, while they might not be able to do anything specifically for South LA, they can at least start the conversation for it. One of the first things is the distribution of supportive housing. There is a lot of supportive housing going on. For example, do you know the difference between supportive housing and affordable housing?
I thought they were the same thing.
They are not the same thing. So, well, they actually are kind of the same thing. So affordable housing is housing that is usually built sometimes by public dollars and sometimes through tax credits from private developers to make housing more affordable for people that make less than the median area income. So these units are typically subsidized by the city or the state and such. Supportive housing is affordable housing because they do subsidize the rent, but they also include services. So for example, homelessness is one that is a big one right now because we're looking at ways that we can transition people from living on the streets into living into homes and shelters. But then there's also other ones for domestic abuse, people that may have suffered from that or from drug abuse or any other instance where living in a house by themselves may be a little unstable. So Supportive housing is adding services. I think that for the city, supportive housing is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. But I do think that South LA has a bit too much and is really taking on the burden of a lot of supportive housing.
Well, and would you say that South LA has the most supportive housing in all of LA County or LA City?
It actually doesn't, but it has a lot. So for example, in 2016, LA City residents voted on the measure HHH, which allocated city funds to be used to develop supportive housing to get individuals who are experiencing homelessness off the street, along with other transitional services or people that might need those transitional services. Right now, there are over $1 billion of funds that are actually set aside and allocated to build these developments. So in this, South LA has 33 projects, or 26% of the total supportive housing that's been built with these HHH funds. It outpaces East LA and West LA that has 8 projects, so South LA has 33, and the Valley, which has 22 projects. The only region that doesn't outpace South LA is Central Los Angeles, that's anywhere between downtown and West Hollywood, above South LA, and that one has 44 projects. For supportive housing, I really think that the mayor can continue to shape the trend of what South LA is experiencing and to make sure that it's not going to unnecessarily take on the brunt of supportive housing. It's the second in the region, and it's taking on more supportive housing than most other projects being built right now. And I think with their support, they can make sure that we get the services that people need, but they're not necessarily all put and flanked in one particular region of the city. So let's move on to our second point, and I think it's another big deal. I think it's the alley. And I mean,
yes.
we know, we lived behind one for quite a while, a gated alley. And if you've watched one of my previous videos, you know that these alleys do not get any kind of support from the city. No support for parking enforcement for cars that are parked there illegally. No support for anything, for any kind of big item or bulky item pickup. Any kind of item that is dumped there is not at the responsibility of the city. It's just basically private property that is shared between residents, and sometimes it can be very hard to even work with residents to make those work.
Right. You know, I can't tell you how many times we had issues with our alley, and, you know, thankfully we had neighbors who were very, you know, supportive, and they did want to keep the alley clean as much as possible, but you know, trash, all sorts of things, you name it, we were picking it up. Well, he was picking it up because I wasn't doing that. But, you know, it can be very challenging. And I'm sure those of you who live, you know, in front of an alley, you know, the trials that we face with an alley. So
I think from that last video, we learned that, and it's a really sad reality, there's no resolution for it. The city, practically when they gated those alleys, they forgot that they were even once city property. I think this is a great time for the mayor to actually step in, and they can actually say something about this that's impacting so many residents, and not even just in South LA. There was actually an article near Silver Lake where one alley was locked and the police couldn't even get in because it was locked, and they refused to come through it since it was private property. And you know what? If any of the front runners are looking at this, I would be more than happy to talk to you guys on this channel about what we could do to make this better. So I think the last thing that I would really like to see a conversation about is business in South LA. In one of my earlier videos, in my top 10 video, I actually pointed out a fun fact that there was only one Target in the bounds of South LA. And you know where that is.
I go there all the time, and they never have anything. And that's the Target at USC Village.
That's it. That Target and that Trader Joe's. Only one here, and they're technically not even for the residents. They're for the
students.
The USC students. I would love to see more businesses investing in South LA, or to make it easier for businesses to consider this a viable investment. I think there are far too many times that people need to leave the city. There's so many dollars leaving the region. we could, if there was some way to bring these businesses here to make South LA a stronger point. I know a lot of people are talking about gentrification, and that's a big one that I've seen on this channel. I think that that is a very valid concern. I also think that gentrification can be fought from people keeping their property, especially like with Proposition 13 that freezes a lot of property tax that can stop displacement of people. But I do think that we need to see more investment just so people can feel more proud of their communities. But you had a sort of a different thought about big businesses coming to South LA.
Well, I just think that, if you bring a big business such as, Walmart or Target, it can take away from our small businesses. And, there's always this balance, right? Like you want to support your small businesses, but they might not have everything that you can find at a Target or a Walmart. And so it would be interesting if we could have just like maybe one other Target or one other Walmart, but maybe have it in an area where it's not going to have such a huge impact on our small businesses, because we want to support the people who are here in the community who are doing good work for the community, but might not be able to get the same amount of goods that a big business can. So I do think, there is an area somewhere in South LA where we can have like a big box retail store, but also still keep our small businesses, go running just like they have been for many years. But that would be the conversation for the mayor and for the city council members.
Right, and there are a lot of people that I think the new front runner or mayor can even talk to. There are several interviews, like Hotville Chicken was one with Kim Prince. That was a great interview about her struggle of trying to keep a small business in South LA. There was another one, Coffee Del Mundo, where I talked to John, the owner, and about his experience of bringing his own coffee shop vision right to South LA. And then there's several other small businesses like Hank's Mini Market and South LA Cafe, and there's so many other small places, and I would think that it's a great opportunity to hear and listen to these business owners to determine like what needs to be done so we can see more small businesses like that, but then also get the necessary resources where for the things that they can't cover, places like a Target. I'm like really against Walmart.
Yeah, I said Walmart, but I don't actually believe it Walmart. So Target would be the only other store.
I think a Target, and I mean like at this point it's kind of weird because Amazon is like taking over the world. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter like how far you live from the store. It will they'll bring it right to you.
Yeah, but sometimes they don't have everything, and they have it at a much higher price.
That's true.
And let's not forget. So
that's true.
Yeah.
So yes, future mayor of LA, I would really hope if you do not subside to Amazon, but you actually just kind of consider about how this part of the region can really be built up. I think a lot of people forget that there are nearly 1 million people in South LA. That is more people than in Washington, D.C. or even Denver, Colorado. That's a lot of people that you're serving. And I think that we are one of 4 regions in this city, and that, 5 if you count the valley.
That should be a different region.
It should be a different city.
That should be. Anyway.
But there are people here that definitely need this representation. So, guys, I say that to just start this conversation. These are 3 things that I think are very important and very actionable and something that a future mayor can actually solve in LA. If there's something that you think that should be looked into South LA, leave it down in the comments section below. Your comments help power this whole channel, power ideas, and even start conversation, especially with one another. So that's all I have for this episode, and I'll catch you guys around
on the recap.